Brandon Beane gave out big time money to 5 Buffalo Bills players last offseason, and now that we are a year removed from all those extensions, let's see where I grade all of these Buffalo Bills extensions. Before we get into this video, Bills fans, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We are at 894 subs right now, but still 94% of you guys watching these videos are not subscribed. So be sure to double check and hit that subscribe button. But let's get straight into it. The first player that we will be going over is going to be James Cook. And as you see, I'm going to be going over their PFF grades and season stats from last season for all of these players. And the first guy up is going to be James Cook. Now you guys see that last season he had an 83.4 overall PFF grade, which had him ranked 9th in the NFL among running backs. He was ranked 84.4 in rushing grade, which was also 9th best amongst running backs, and a 63.1 receiving grade, which was 23rd among running backs, but I think that could have been boosted up if the Buffalo Bills just gave him more chances in the receiving game. And when you take a look at his season stats, 309 carries, which was the 3rd most in the NFL, so a big part of his extension was, can he be that every down back for the Buffalo Bills? And he proved very clearly that he could do that. See the 3rd most carries in the NFL last season. He had 1,621 rushing yards and 12 rushing touchdowns with 5.2 yards per carry on the season last year. And like I said, the contract discussions with him last offseason weren't about is he a good player or not. It was, is it worth paying a running back this much money? And as you guys know, James Cook held out of training camp for a little bit just because of the fact that the Bills weren't giving him an extension. But in the end, the Bills did end up giving him a 4-year, $48 million contract that I think you could see was well worth the money. And as a result, I have graded the James Cook extension with an A+. There's really no need to say anything else. He's a phenomenal player. As long as he stays healthy, he will continue to be a phenomenal player for the Buffalo Bills. If you guys agree with my James Cook ranking, please make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Moving on to the second guy, we're going to have Greg Rousseau. And this is a guy who I think has kind of a weird notion surrounding him, because he isn't the most effective pass rusher. However, last year he still did have 8 sacks. While he isn't a consistent, factor in every single game in the pass rush game, he's a dominant run defender. And as you guys see right here, his run defense grade was an 83, which was 2nd in the NFL amongst all defensive ends. He had an overall grade of 86.4 and a pass rush grade of 77.2. I think he is a guy who has been criminally underrated by Bills fans. He had 8 sacks last year. He had a forced fumble. He had 26 stops on defense, which was 28th most in the NFL. He had 55 QB pressures last year, which I believe was the most on the Buffalo Bills last season. And I think that Greg Rousseau is the guy who, just because of the fact that he doesn't have double-digit sacks every single season, or really I don't even know if he's had double-digit sacks in a season yet, but I think if he could get to that level, he will be an elite pass rusher or elite edge defender in the NFL, and some that Bills fans will respect a little bit more. But because of the fact that he doesn't get double-digit sacks, I think that holds him back in the eyes of Bills fans. But still, he's a very productive player. I played phenomenally for the Buffalo Bills last season in run defense situations. And as a result of that, I have graded Gregory Rousseau's extension of 4 years, $80 million as an A-. Bills fans, let me know if you agree with me in the comment section down below or not. The next guy up is going to be cornerback Christian Benford, who the Buffalo Bills inked a 4-year, $76 million extension with last offseason. And let me tell you something, when looking at his PFF, I was absolutely shocked to see, well, I wasn't really shocked, but it was kind of weird seeing how his coverage grade was a 55 last season, considering that was one of the strong points of his game. Now, Christian Benford, as you guys know, has become an elite cornerback over the last 3 seasons in the NFL, but it's hard to ignore the fact that he did have a 55 coverage grade in his first year after signing his big extension. And I'll tell you guys why it's pretty weird. So he had a 55 coverage grade, which ranked 87th best in the NFL. Now in 2024, he had an 82.8 coverage grade, which is 30 points higher almost, which is 4th best in the NFL. In 2023, he had an 82.4 coverage grade as well, which was 10th best in the NFL. So seeing him sign in his extension and go all the way down to 87th best in the NFL is kind of discouraging. However, he was literally the best run defending cornerback in the NFL and also a great pass rusher when he was blitzing off the edge. And, for Christian Benford, I think he just had a rough start to the year last year, and it kind of threw off his entire season. However, I still believe he's a very talented cornerback. He had a couple of games where he kind of was the difference. In that game against Cincinnati, that pick six stands out as a play that really kind of changed the Bills' end of the season around and really gave the Bills momentum heading into the playoffs. And so for that reason, Christian Benford, who I think is He had an off year last year, without a doubt. But I think he still is a phenomenal player for this Buffalo Bills defense, and as a result, I graded his extension a B plus. Now, Bills fans, I understand if you want it to be a little bit lower, just because of the fact that his coverage grade wasn't really the best last season in a couple games where he did get exposed. But I still think he's a phenomenal player for the Bills. So Bills fans, you can debate me in the comment section down below. And now for the next guy that the Buffalo Bills extended, it's going to be wide receiver Khalil Shakir. And last season was kind of a regular schmegular year for Khalil Shakir. He had a 70.4 overall grade according to PFF, which is 38th best in the NFL, and a 70.5 receiving grade, which is 43rd best in the NFL. And then when you take a look at his stats, he had 91 targets, he had 72 receptions, 719 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So this is the thing with Khalil Shakir. I think he has the talent to be a 1,100 plus yard receiver. However, I think that the Bills' offense doesn't give him the opportunity to, on a consistent basis, to have monster games. However, he is literally the best wide receiver in the NFL with yards after the catch. Maybe Jamar Chase is a little bit better, but without a doubt, Khalil Shakir is top 2 with yards after the catch. When we take a look at his stats, he only had 4 drops on the season last year. He has 10 yards per reception. He has the second most yards after the catch per reception at 7.6, 105.1 passer rating when targeted. However, his average depth of target was literally 3.9 yards. So what that tells you is every single time he got the ball an average of 3.9 yards down the field, which is kind of unbelievable because he can be a really good downfield threat, or at least over the middle of the field. But most of the time that the Bills threw to him, it was on wide receiver screens, which didn't let him get into space, or it allowed him to get into space, but didn't allow him to make big plays, over the top of the defense. However, because of the talent of Khalil Shakir and how good I believe he can be, and has been for the Buffalo Bills in key situations, I have graded his extension of 4 years, $60 million, a B plus as well. Now, Bills fans, I almost put him at a B just because of the fact that, he isn't a standout wide receiver in the NFL. But the fact is, the value on that contract, only $15 million a season, and you're getting consistent yards after the catch, which is second best in the NFL. You're getting a guy who can really work in space. I believe that Khalil Shakir is well worth this contract. That's why I have him at a B+. Before we get into this final contract extension, which is Terrel Bernard, if you guys have made it this far into the video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all the support you guys have given me on the videos recently. However, we are still trying to get to 1,000 by the NFL draft. I need your help in doing so. But as you guys saw in the thumbnail, Terrel Bernard, what is his grade going to be? Well, I think if you could tell by the trend in this video, Terrel Bernard is going to be the lowest graded player that I have personally for the Buffalo Bills. Now, we'll take a look at his season grades really quick. Now, I will preface this by saying Terrel Bernard was injured basically all of last season. However, he had a 48.8 overall grade, which was 73rd best in the NFL. He had a 57.1 run defense grade, which was 66th best in the NFL. A 52.4 pass rush grade, which was 76th in the NFL, and a 46.7 coverage grade, which was 65th in the NFL out of 88 linebackers. Now, for a guy who we signed a 4 years, $60 million extension to, I do not, or 4 years, $50 million, sorry. This was not worth it at all. And I mean, he was injured, but when you take a look at his 2024 season, was he really that much better? Not really. I mean, 2023, he had a standout season, and he was a pretty good linebacker for us. But the last 2 seasons, he has kind of completely fallen off a cliff, especially in the coverage area, which is supposed to be his strong suit. And he was just not that great last year. He had 14 missed tackles last season. He only had 9 pressures. He allowed a pass rating of 99.4 when he was targeted in coverage. I mean, he was just not that great of a player for the Buffalo Bills. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to be looking up Shaq Thompson really quick, because he got benched for Shaq Thompson multiple times throughout the season. And Shaq Thompson, he's 31 years old, coming off an Achilles tear. And while he wasn't phenomenal by any stretch of the imagination, he was a lot better than Terrel Bernard was in coverage. And I want to say this pass rush grade and run defense grade, even though they aren't great, they were better than Terrel Bernard, who's coming off a 4-year, $50 million extension, whereas Shaq Thompson we got literally for the vet minimum. So, Bills fans, as a result, because of the fact that I believe that Terrel Bernard was a horrible signing and was absolutely horrible the last 2 seasons, I have graded his extension an F. This was an absolute miss by Brandon Beane, in my opinion, and I believe that the Buffalo Bills in this year's draft could be looking to get a linebacker or even in free agency to replace Terrel Bernard, especially in his new 3-4 system with Jim Leonard. I just do not see how Terrel Bernard fits. He's a smaller kind of linebacker, and he's just not that great in coverage. Bills fans, you can debate me if you want, but I do not believe that Terrel Bernard was a good signing at all. But Bills fans, that's going to do it for this video. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. And let me know your thoughts on all these extensions in the comment section down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.